Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Ryan, and this evening I'm going to tell you why God makes sense to me. I was raised a Christian, and I will say that I've met people in other faiths that I feel like have a bright light within them. Um, One time, my girlfriend and I stayed up all night and talked about the scripture that says, No one comes to the Father but by me." It was Jesus speaking. And we were talking about, well, what if you didn't ever meet Jesus, or what if you lived and died and never even heard of Jesus? By early morning, we concluded that possibly there's another time to meet Jesus besides in this life. And I have great respect for different people's beliefs and faiths, um, but they can't all be right. Um, some of the ideas are mutually exclusive. For instance, either we have one life or we have multiple lives. One of them's got to be right and one of them's got to be wrong. Anyway, I haven't found anything that has called me to higher ground or more empowered thinking than Christianity that I have been exposed to. And I have sought out other beliefs to the best of my ability within my own limitations, um, to see if there was something that made more sense to me. But Christianity calls us to very high ground. It calls us to be selfless, to lay down our lives for someone else, to, um, most of us are familiar with the Ten Commandments. If we all followed those, what kind of world would we have? An amazing place, right? There's things that are off-putting about Christianity, but the top three that I can think of are: one, the concept of the devil. But let me ask you, what do you think inspires things like putting people into sex trade, selling children? I don't think that I have a better explanation than pure evil. Greed, but people who are greedy that way at the expense of others don't really have true joy. True joy is when you make a difference for someone else and you make someone else's life better. Another thing that's off putting to people, I think, is Christians themselves, because everyone knows how a Christian should behave, but we all fall short. All the Christians I know fall short. I fall short. I fell short today. But it doesn't mean that hearts aren't directed in the right way. For instance, um, if we want to have an empowered mind, then we're going to have to train ourselves and work toward that goal. And it's the same thing with being a Christian. We have to work every day and invite God to help change us so that we can become the people we want to be. And my friends that are Christians are really, truly trying to do that. And they're good people. And if I get stuck somewhere, that's who I'm calling. I'm just saying, if you wonder about God, if you wonder about Christians, do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because if anything's clear in Scripture, it's that we're not perfect and we really need God. We need to not judge one another and we need to have mercy. The third thing that turns people off about Christianity is the same thing that turned Satan away from God, according to the Bible, in the original sin, which was saying, hey, I don't want you to be God. I want to be my own God. The problem with that is we pay a price, a huge price, because we give up the love, the forgiveness, the grace, the guidance, the wisdom of a true God when we try to be our own God. Although that can sound appealing in the moment, it doesn't create a world that we really want to live in, because we're not going to all come up with the same plan. On the other hand, if there really is right and wrong, and it's pretty much been spelled out for us, or exactly been spelled out for us, and we aspire to live by those standards, then we're all moving in the same direction and life can get better and better. If you know scripture, if you've read the Bible before, you know that everybody is not going to be doing that on this in this earth, in this life. So does it matter whether some of us do? Yeah, it does, because we're part of the whole. And I would rather live in a world where part of the whole is striving to really do right, be good, make the world better, save our planet, all of that stuff, than a world where nobody cares or nobody's towing any kind of line. They just do what they want. And I think if I look around and think about the last 24 hours of my life, I've seen two young men who were super disrespectful to an older person for no real reason except they felt like somebody didn't like what they did and they just were angry. And I think, man, we need God. We need guidance. We need teaching. And scripture's full of it. And it's the reason that I've been able to grow. It's the reason that I've come from a very broken family and been able to feel part of a bigger family, which is the family of God, which is everybody who chooses to um, worship God, love God, and hopefully love one another. So these are the reasons that God makes sense to me. I think I said those. I said why I think people get turned off by Christianity. But if we look at those three things and we're honest with ourselves, then hopefully we're going to conclude that it's better to be under a good God than it is to be over our self-directed life. Because God is bigger and better and wiser than any of us. All right. Good night and till next time.